I'm curious your take on this because, with, again, freedom over everything, and you think about the Second Amendment, you talked about people not understanding what the Constitution was about, et cetera. And then on you're referencing the leaders, the left, whatever you want to call them, right? I'm guessing that's what you're referring to. I see that, yes, I agree, they're lying, they're gaslighting, et cetera. And a lot of what they do is they change definitions.
Yes.
And they change definitions, and so we're actually talking about two different things, but we think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like they change the definitions because then they can win that argument.
Yep.
And so back to the Second Amendment, right? Now, you've referenced many times about being able to protect yourself. And I feel that's one way that they're trying to change the definition because they could win that. So the Second Amendment, I don't believe, was about self-defense.
Okay.
It was about protecting against tyranny.
100%.
And so if they say, well, you don't need self-defense.
Yeah.
If nobody has guns,
then
you don't need to
fine.
defend yourself.
Yeah.
And the police have guns, and the police will have your back. And then they could win that argument.
Yeah.
But how do they win an argument that says, no, we need it for tyranny?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious your take
So
on that.
both arguments I get hit with both, and I have an answer for each side. When the person, because again, my job is to try to change their thought process a little bit. I can't force them, but I can at least destroy your arguments with logic. So I usually hit them with a Socratic method when it goes there. So if that person is more left-leaning, and if I know that they're like, the entire system is racist, and I'll go, okay, cool. I'm not going to argue against you. I'll go, cool. I just didn't know that you were so pro-government. And they'll go, well, I'm not pro-government. And I'm like, well, you trust the government to defend you, and you trust that the government won't do the wrong thing.
Right.
And they're like, no, I don't believe that. I'm like, well, yeah. And then I start naming the names of the people that I know you're in alignment with. My job is to not make you argue whether, let's say, George Floyd is right or wrong as a human. I think he did shitty things, pardon my language. But I'm not going to argue that point to that person. I just go, well, man, you want the same government that you say is fully racist that choked George Floyd to death. You want them to be the only people that has firearms. That's a lot of trust in that government. So I don't argue against them. I just make them think more things. Now, as far as it relates to tyranny, they're very inconsistent, whether intentionally or like being manipulative. So if they go, oh, if you say tyranny, they go, well, what do you mean? The government wouldn't do that. And then I go, oh, but again, this system is racist and everybody's racist. So would that be? And I'm like, listen, even if they happen to be black, well, if the system racist and he's black cop and he works for the system, you a white dude, man, he might be racist towards you. So wouldn't you want to have a way of defending yourself against that type of tyranny? Every argument that they have, if not met with aggression, is met with on some low key redirection and challenging to their thought process. Those are the ways that I get that person to concede. And if they say, well, if it's not about personal protection, it's about tyranny, I go that way. If they say it's not about tyranny, it's about personal protection, I go that way. The bottom line is I have to let them see that they're talking for the same government or the same system that they would be in opposition to. Yeah. And when I can help them put that light bulb on by inception, then they'll leave. Even if they don't agree with me in the conversation right there, that inception's already, that idea is in your brain. It's going to keep growing. Yeah. And so both arguments is what they'll do to be intellectually inconsistent. You just have to have one already teed up. And again, reps. I've done this a bajillion times. So when they say, yo, in the Constitution, they didn't mean black people. And I go, well, they didn't mention race at all in the Constitution, anywhere.
And the Declaration says the opposite, right? All men are created equal.
Right. So this is always, right? But 90-some-odd% of the time in my anecdotal lived experience, it is very much so an issue of education and application. If you meet me at the point where I can inform you and educate you, later on, I don't need credit for it. You're going to start applying it later because something will happen. And I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a libertarian, but I clearly cannot vote for Joe Biden, regardless of whatever.
Ideology-wise, or because he's a walking vegetable?
Both. How can you be the walking vegetable that also has horrible ideology, right? He's checking all of the hell no boxes.
I'm like, I mean, like whatever. 25% of people still think he should be running, and I'm just like, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. Not because of ideology. You want communism, cool, but like he's clearly a vegetable.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway.
I think that I'm critical of Trump in certain areas.
Yeah.
Now, I'm definitely not going to pick Biden over Trump. Just like anything,
Yeah.
hotel, international travel, like it's nothing that I'm going to pick him on.
Yeah.
But I'm critical of Trump. And that level of criticalness, that person that I'm talking to that may be hardcore Trump in that moment, my job is not to highlight just for Trump because Biden's so bad. My job is to showcase which politicians and public servants are firing on all cylinders or most cylinders as it relates to the Constitution. So I just stay in the objective space. So when I'm critical of Trump and I say, yo, he had that sentence, man, I don't trust that sentence, take the guns first, due process later. I'm afraid of that sentence. Not to challenge the person that may be identifying as a Trump supporter or right of center. It's for me to go, hey. All of the politicians need to be held to the standard, especially on a federal level, more specifically, to the standard of this Constitution, because our founders to this nation weren't about like, red versus blue. They actually were like, yo, don't do party systems, And so that level of objectivity, just because I'm dunking on the left because they're giving us so much material all of the time, doesn't mean that we don't keep that same energy, because this is about the people. It's not about media or very, very powerful people. Oh, you need a hero? Oh, we'll supply him for you.
Yeah.
And it may not be in alignment with what you think it is, but he just looks like the lesser of two evils. And again, I'm not advocating that Trump is that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying our job, our highest alignment is to that truth. And the Constitution, in my humble opinion, may be up against the 42 laws of Ma'at, but the Constitution is a document that I'm just like, that system of checks and balances, pun intended, it really checks out.
Yeah.
And so getting people to inform that way as opposed to letting them box you. If I talk about the racist history of gun control, because I said the word racist, it's going to be, oh, he must be a leftist, right? And then when I go, nah, that's not what Trump said. He didn't say it's fine people on both sides and that was it. Like, our job is to be almost like our men and women are on their own islands, and the island is freedom in the Constitution. So you can't get trapped by this binary. That's what's killing us. There's no context, no gray area, no nuance.
Yeah, that's a big problem in the world today.